In 1942, the Atlantic Ocean is a freezing, isolated expanse. Allied supply ships are making the treacherous journey across these waters, carrying the food and fuel required to keep Britain alive. Without warning, the water erupts. Torpedoes rip through the hulls of the supply vessels, turning the ocean into a graveyard of burning metal and drowning sailors. By this point in the war, German submarines are destroying Allied ships faster than shipyards can replace them. The commanders back in London knew this was going to happen. Winston Churchill and the staff at Bletchley Park had the exact coordinates of the German ambush hours before the first torpedo fired. They watched the convoys sail directly into the trap. They let the ships sink. They let the sailors drown. The Allied leadership deliberately chose inaction. To understand that choice, we have to look at how the Nazi military communicated. Every U-boat strike and troop movement across Europe was coordinated through a single encrypted system. This is the Enigma machine. To the outside world, the messages typed into this keyboard and processed through these rotors looked like pure, meaningless noise. The German military believed the mathematics of this encryption were unbreakable. That absolute secrecy allowed their submarine fleets to operate with lethal efficiency, moving quickly across the Atlantic to hunt down supply lines. Britain was running out of food and fuel. Churchill calculated that if the attacks continued at this pace, the country would starve into submission within months. Enigma acted as a physical barrier to Britain's survival. As long as the encryption held, the supply lines would remain severed. The British government gathered their sharpest minds at an estate called Bletchley Park to mount an intellectual counteroffensive. Among them was Alan Turing. Turing was a mathematician and logician who realized that human intuition alone could never compete with Nazi encryption. This is the scale of the math Turing was up against. A single letter input on the Enigma machine branches out into over 158 quintillion possible settings for a single message. Trying to guess the correct setting by hand was a mathematical impossibility. Turing hypothesized that the only way to defeat a mechanical system of that complexity was to build a machine of their own. He designed an electromechanical system called the Bombe. The conflict in the Atlantic shifted into an automated data race. The Bombe was a massive, thundering beast of a device built to brute force the encryption and read Hitler's mail. By spinning these rotating dials, it eliminated billions of impossible settings every second, eventually isolating the precise configuration for that day's messages. At their peak, these machines were processing thousands of German communications every day. The Allies suddenly had a god's-eye view of the entire Nazi military operation, but this intelligence created a terrifying trap. If the British Navy suddenly evaded every single U-boat ambush, the Germans would immediately realize Enigma was compromised and change their encryption overnight. This meant Churchill and his commanders had to calculate which losses were acceptable. They deliberately allowed certain convoys to be destroyed and specific cities to be bombed, sacrificing their own people to prevent the Germans from suspecting the code was broken. The heaviest burden of the war fell on the men making these calculations. They possessed the power to save lives, but bore the weight of deciding exactly who was allowed to die. Historians now estimate that cracking the Enigma code shortened World War II by 2 to 4 years. That mathematical breakthrough saved millions of lives and secured the eventual Allied victory. Yet the man most responsible for that victory received no public celebration. Alan Turing's vital contribution remained entirely classified. In 1952, the British government prosecuted Turing for being gay. They sentenced him to forced chemical castration, altering his body against his will. 2 years later, Turing was found dead of cyanide poisoning. He was 41 years old. The work done at Bletchley Park was bound by the Official Secrets Act. The men and women who intercepted those messages were legally barred from telling their own families what they had done until the 1970s. Alan Turing engineered a machine that saved the free world. The government he saved repaid him with silence and persecution.